Hi guys, welcome back to Toasty TCG. So this format I have chosen to play the new deck, Eldlich, and lately for the last 3 weeks I've been playing it, going to locals. It has been running very well for me. I've been changing up the cards a little bit just to find what I feel works best. And right now I feel like this is the build that really works for me, so I just want to show you guys the cards. And unlike my Thunder Dragon videos where I've explained the cards multiple times already, I'm actually going to go into detail with every card in this deck that is new, from Secret Slayers, Dual Overload, and so forth, just to explain the deck in very great detail. So to get right into it, for our monster lineup is 2 Eldlich the Golden Lord. Now, I've seen some people like to play 3 of it, but the reason that I'm playing 2 is this is the combo variant, where you don't really want to open the Golden Lord, and also, just in general, opening it, or opening multiples of it for that matter, can kind of be a little bit bricky. Now, it has the effect to discard itself and a spell or trap from your hand to send a card from the field to the graveyard, but if you go first, that effect is really bad to use because you're going to waste a lot of resources just to get this guy on the field. You have to have a card on the field to send to the grave, sending in one spell or trap from your hand to the grave as well, and then you have to have another spell or trap to set to send that card to the grave to get Golden Lord back. So when you do things like that, sometimes you do end up with still having 5 cards by the time that your turn ends due to how Golden Lands and Eldlichs work, but it's not the best thing to have to do, so you really want to avoid it as much as possible. Now, the second effect, as I've mentioned already, if you send a spell or trap from your field to the grave, you can get Golden Lord back. First, it goes back into your hand, and then you have the option to special summon any zombie from your hand, and then until your opponent's end phase, give it a 1000 attack and defense buff, plus that summoned monster cannot be destroyed by card effects. So usually you're going to summon your Golden Lord sometimes in defense if you've already gone through your battle phase, while other times summoning it in attack with 3500 attack is very useful. But for those reasons, that's why we have chosen to play 2 Eldlich the Golden Lord. Now, up next, we've got the Magician's Soul lineup. Now, this card is very good in Eldlich in general. The reason being is, with Conquistadors and Waqueros and all the Eldlichs, they all float in the grave. So when you use your Magician's Soul to send 2 cards from your hand to the grave, even if that card gets negated, you're not really losing resources, because all those cards are going to float and still get you 2 cards. Now, if Magician's Soul does resolve, you draw 2 cards, or 1 card in some cases, but you also have the effects in the graveyard, turning Magician's Souls into a 2 cards for 2 cards into just a generic +2. Now, also, we've gone with Apprentice Illusion Magician. I've seen some people play, I believe the card is called Palladium Oracle Mana, but the reason that you want to play Apprentice Illusion Magician, in my opinion, is this card can discard any card in your hand to special summon it, similar to Jet Synchron. So the reason that is good is if you open the Apprentice Illusion Magician, it's almost always live, and you can also discard a Golden Land or an Eldlich from your hand to summon it, setting your spell or trap card up in the graveyard. Now, up next is the Monster Hand Trap lineup, starting with 3 main deck Nibiru. Now, I know this is a very explosive format where the die roll actually does matter quite a lot from what most people have agreed upon. If your opponent plays any kind of Halqa-Fibrax combo, you want to see your Nibiru. Now, a lot of people have debated where the best time to Nibiru is, and personally, I feel it's when they summon the Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon, get the 3 tokens, and then summon the Deskbot. After that Deskbot hits the field, that's probably your best time to Nibiru. But Nibiru, of course, is Nibiru. It board wipes everything, But there's also a really cool setup I want to show you guys in just a moment. I'm going to talk about that later. For the next hand trap, we are playing Mixed Rarity Effect Veiler. 1 common, 1 super, 1 ultra. Now, the reason that we play this card is, once again, there's a really cool setup with this card I'm going to show you guys later, but also this is a very monster-heavy format, where if your opponent goes, like I mentioned with Nibiru, they go into Halqifibrax, you want to be able to stop that Halqifibrax at all costs. So Effect Veiler is very important into this format. Stopping monster effects is really what matters this format, so you have to play Effect Veiler, not only for Effect Veiler's effect, but like I said, there's a really cool setup with it. Next up is 3 Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is the most staple of staple cards in the game. It just stops so much. It stops Halqifibrax, which, as I've mentioned, this is the 3rd time now. It's very important to stop the Halqifibrax in this format. Then next up, we've got Triple Jet Synchron, a little mixed rarity on the very end there with the common. But this is the card that does all the combos. You link it away into your Link Karibo, or you can also link it away into your Relinquished Anima, and then you do full Halqifibrax combo. Now what's really cool about Jet Synchron in this deck is it has the same effect as the Apprentice Illusion Magician, where it discards a card from your hand to special summon it. However, Jet Synchron summons itself from the graveyard instead of the hand. Now you can discard any card in your hand, meaning any spell or trap that sets up your Eldlich combos. So that's really important, and also it's a tuner, so when you have your Link Karibo, you have your Jet Synchron, you can make your Halqifibrax, and keep in mind there are some situations where you don't need to special summon the Jet Synchron. So, for example, if you have your Magician Souls on the field that you just special summoned and you just drew your cards, then you can summon your Jet Synchron, turn the Magician Soul into your Link Karibo, and then make your Halqifibrax. The reason that you want to turn your Magician Souls into a Link Karibo is because once you reach the part of the combo where you make Link Ross, you want to be able to tribute one of those Link Ross tokens for a Link Karibo, but keep in mind you can't actually Link Summon with the Link Ross tokens. So you have to use Link Karibo's Graveyard effect. Now going further into the machine lineup, we're playing 2 Mecha Phantom Beast Olion. This card is actually not terrible to open in this build because it chain blocks for your Halqifibrax. So if you open your Olion as your normal summon and you have any other extender, you can get to Halqifibrax by linking your Olion away, and then you have Chainlink 1 Halqifibrax, Chainlink 2 Olion. Also keep in mind that this card's effect activates as soon as it hits the graveyard from anywhere. So for example, if you go into your Jet Synchron, you link the Jet Synchron away, and then you bring the Jet Synchron back, you can discard the Olion for that discard to get your Jet Synchron back, getting you your token a little bit early. Now what's really cool about having that token early is if you make the Halqifibrax and your opponent negates your Halqifibrax effect, you can still link that token that you just made with the Halqifibrax and go straight for Auroradon. Now, in this scenario, you do end up 1 negate short because you already used that effect to make your token, but at least you're not in that weird situation where you're just Halqifibrax, hopefully you have a card to set, and you just end up passing your turn. So opening a line is actually pretty cool, and keep in mind you special summon it off of your Auroradon to do further plays further on in the Halqifibrax combo. Now the card you really don't want to see is the Deskbot 001. That's why we play it at 1. What's really interesting about this card, sometimes this comes up, is it gains 500 attack for every machine on the field. So sometimes you can summon this card once your Auroradon goes off, summoning 3 tokens, and then you bring back the Deskbot by its first effect. And now this card's like a 3000 attack beat stick, sometimes it's 3500 attack. This thing gets really big sometimes, and you can actually use this card to push for game. It's kind of a wild card, The first effect is what matters. If you summon two machines at one time, you get to summon your despot from your graveyard. That is not a hard once per turn, but I doubt that really comes up too often. But both effects of this card are actually pretty interesting. It's also a level 1, so if you open, like I said with the Olion, if you open any other extender plus your Despot 001, you can link them away into Halka Fibrax. And now you also have the Despot 001 in the graveyard, so you don't need to summon it off your Halka Fibrax. You can just summon another Jet Synchron. And finally, for my Synchro engine, I'm actually playing 2 Quick Draw Synchron. I wouldn't be playing this if not one of the best players I know personally recommended me this option. Now, what it does is discards any monster from your hand to special summon it from your hand, and it's a Wind Machine Tuner. Now, why those things matter is 1, because it's a tuner, you can make Halka Fibrax. 2, it's a machine, so if your Halka Fibrax gets stopped and you have Synchron in your hand, you can summon the Synchron and link into Auroradon. And now, the most important thing from this is being able to discard a monster is really, really helpful, because when you discard that Olion, you get your token. If you discard your Golden Lord and you have the setup for it, now your Golden Lord's set up, you can send the Senguine from your field to the graveyard, getting your Counter Trap or your Conquistador, your Garo set up. So this card just is very clutch. It comes up very often, so it's something that's really interesting to try out. And then 3 tuning, just very standard to get into your spell lineup. It just searches any Synchron, so that is Jet Synchron or Quick Draw Synchron, and then it mills a card. Hopefully you mill a Golden Land, or hopefully you mill an Eldlich, and then you're able to use those effects as well. Speaking of Eldlichs, we play 1 Eldlich of White Destiny, and that's actually it for the Eldlich spell lineup. I've chosen not to play the Black Eldlich. The reason being is the Black Eldlich is not a quick play spell, and it summons from your hand or your deck. Now, why that matters is Senguine already summons from your deck, but what makes Senguine a better card is, which is really weird to say, it's a trap card, not a spell card. So because your black is a normal spell, sometimes you end up setting it off your Golden Land and you can't use it until after your opponent ends their turn, going back to your turn. Whereas Senguine is just anytime you flip that card, you get to summon your Golden Lord straight from your deck. So Senguine in this scenario is much faster than a normal spell, which is why we've opted not to play it. And also, like I've mentioned, it summons from hand or deck, which eventually black just becomes a very dead card, because you'll often be in scenarios where the Golden Lords are no longer in your deck. So Senguine and White Destiny can still summon from your graveyard, while the Black Awakening isn't very helpful. Sometimes you might set it as like a last resort to get it destroyed by your Golden Lord, to summon your Golden Lord, but it's better off having these quicker effects that you can use on your opponent's turn. Next up is 3 Cursed Eldland. Now, Cursed Eldland is similar to the old school Cleafort Scout. You pay 800 life points to search any Golden Land or any Golden Lord to your hand. Now, once Cursed Eldland goes from the field, specifically the field, to the graveyard, you get to send any Golden Land or any Golden Lord card from your deck to the graveyard. So this card sets up your hand and your graveyard, which is very important to be able to do, and it is also a continuous spell. So this card is on the field for your Golden Lord to remove later on to get that second effect and also summon your Golden Lord. Now, what's really cool about this card also is if you open it with Jet Synchron, you can use your Cursed Eldland to search whatever card you need discarded, summon your Jet Synchron, start to do your combo, and have Jet Synchron discard whatever card you needed discarded. Now keep in mind, if you discard your Golden Lord, you now have the Golden Lord in the grave to send the Cursed Eldland to the grave to get the Cursed Eldland effect to send from deck to grave, which is a really interesting setup that I often do. Next up is our Wakaros. Wakaro is pretty much the trap monster version of DD Crow. Now, keep in mind that Wakaro doesn't target, so that's very important because there's times where if you flip the Wakaro, your opponent doesn't get to know what you plan to banish until Wakaro has resolve. So if you flip Wakaro, your opponent, if they ask for a target, you just tell them this effect doesn't target, and that's where they have to respond to it. If they don't respond, then you summon your Wakaro and you banish the card from the graveyard. Now, before I put the Wakaro away, there's also 3 Conquistadors, which is something very important to talk about because Conquistador and Wakaro can often work together to destroy and banish a card from the field. Now, say you're in a situation where if a card goes from the field to the graveyard, it's going to have an effect. If, however, you chain your Wakaro first, and then your Conquistador can destroy the card on the field, and then Wakaro can banish it from the grave, causing that card to never be able to resolve because it wasn't where it needed to be by the end of this chain. This is actually something new that came out recently through Konami. There's a new ruling, so keep that in mind. So, say for example, there's a card that activates when destroyed by a card effect and goes to the graveyard, similar to Baby Sarosaurus. If Conquistador destroys the Baby Sarosaurus, and then Chainlink 1 resolves being Wakaro, and Wakaro banishes the Baby Sarosaurus technically just doesn't hit the grave, and it just doesn't see that window to resolve, so it never gets to activate. And then up next, we have 1 Golden Land Forever. This card is a counter trap, which is very powerful at negating any spell or trap card activation and any monster effect. Now, I recently made a video about how this card doesn't negate everything that people believe it does. If your opponent activates a spell or trap card effect, say it's a card that's already on the field, such as your Golden Land or your Cursed Eldland. Say they have a Cursed Eldland of their own that they activated, say they activated it last turn, and now this turn they pay 800 to search, you can't chain the Golden Land Forever to negate that search. Golden Land Forever only negates the activation of the spell or trap card. It doesn't negate the effect of the spell or trap card that's already on the field. Once a card is already on the field, it's already been activated. Golden Land Forever can't negate that. Now, moving on. Eldlich of Scarlet Sanguine, the best Eldlich out of the 3 options that you have. You summon from your hand, or you summon from your deck or your graveyard, not your hand. Now, what's really cool about Eldlich that really separates it from everything else is it works in tandem with Nibiru, the Primal Being. And what I mean by that is, say for example, your Chainlink 1 is Nibiru. Your opponent just hit their 5th summon, or they just hit the choke point where Nibiru would just completely stop their combo. Now, you chain to your Nibiru your Eldlich of Scarlet Sanguine. Scarlet Sanguine summons the Golden Lord from your deck or your graveyard. And now for the rest of the turn, you cannot special summon except for zombie monsters. However, Nibiru is a rock monster, so it's not going to be able to special summon itself, though it does need to resolve as much as possible. That means it's going to tribute every monster on the field, but it won't special summon. So that's something really cool to keep in mind. It's something that Orcus players used to do when Nibiru first came out, when they would be able to chain a Orcus from their grave to their Nibiru. They would get their Orcus effect, and then they would board wipe with the Nibiru, and now you don't have to summon a giant rock. Now for the final card to our 43 Eldlich card deck is Infinite Impermanence. It's our final hand trap. Just negates any monster effect on the field. It's, once again, another very important card in this format where stopping monster effects is just so crucial. Now, moving on to the extra deck, we have 2 Crystron Halqifibrax. The reason that you have to play 2 is because there's multiple Crystron Halqifibrax combos we're using, so you want to be able to have one Crystron Halqifibrax for one combo, and then in another turn or another time be able to have the second Halqifibrax for the second combo. Also, if the first Halqifibrax gets stopped, you have another Halqifibrax for another turn. Next up is the 1 Link Karibo. This is the card that you, of course, just link away, so that way you can get to your Halqifibrax. You summon your Jet Synchron, you make your Link Karibo. Now, the newest card in the combo from Eternity Code is Link Ross. This, of course, summons you 2 Link Ross tokens. So recently I've been able to pick up my own proxy tokens. So usually when you make your Link Ross, you make it with your Halqifibrax, so you get 2 tokens. So this is a token that I showed off in my recent Thunder Dragon profile for Synchro Thunder. So it was made by the Dealing team. I'm going to leave a link to their Facebook page in the description below, so you're free to check that out. I'll just take it out of the sleeve. It's a little bit bigger than Yu-Gi-Oh card, about the size of a Magic card. It has like this cool like metal framing around it, so try to get that up close to the camera so you guys can see that. Just a very high quality card. So if you're interested in these tokens, I'm going to link the Dealing team's Facebook page down in the description below, along with all my other social media and my TCG Player affiliate link, which of course you can use when you buy TCG Player to no additional cost of your own. So make sure to check all that cool stuff out down in the description below, and down in the below the description, make sure to give me a comment. Let me know what you guys think about this deck profile. Now, moving right along, once you link your Link Ross and a few other cards away, you make your Barricade Borg Blocker, as if this card wasn't good enough back in Orchist. Now, what's really cool about this card is it's a machine, and it's a link too, so you're able to use it for your Auroradon, but also keep in mind it has an effect where you can discard a card from your hand, and then at the end phase, if you have a continuous spell or trap, you can set it from your grave. So what's really cool here is you don't have to have that continuous card in your grave when you summon your Barricade Borg Blocker. What that means is if you go into the Barricade Borg, you can just discard a card for free that you want in your grave instead of it being in your hand. So it's just a very helpful card. It does come up sometimes where you're in a situation where, for example, you have a Garo and an Eldlich in your hand. You're able to discard both of them, and then you're able to set 2 cards from your deck. For example, you'd be able to set the Sanguine, and you'd also be able to set the Golden Land Forever because you opened the Garo and the Eldlich, and you have Jet Synchron to discard one, and you have Barricade Borg Blocker to discard the second one. Now, moving along is Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon. This is pretty much one of the best cards in the deck. It summons you 3 tokens to work with, and then it also triggers your Deskbot 001 if it is in your graveyard. So once you make your Auroradon, you have 4 new monsters to work with. Auroradon, of course, you want to use its second effect where you tribute 2 cards on your field to summon your Mecha Phantom Beast O-Line from your deck, and then you just do your Synchro combos from there. Sometimes that first effect does come up, however, where you tribute 1 monster from your field to destroy a card on the field. What's really cool about that first effect is that effect does not target. So you tribute the card, and then if your opponent allows it to resolve, you never have to declare what you're going to destroy. You just say, I'm going to destroy this card now. Now, up next for the last 3 cards of the Link package is the second Link 1, your Relinquished Anima. This is also a card you can use with Jet Synchron if your opponent plays a monster in either of these zones where the extra monster zone can point to, and then you can use Anima to snatch that monster or bait your opponent into using a negation. If you bait them into using a negation, of course that means you can summon your Jet Synchron back, and then you can go full combo. Up next is Selene, Queen of the Master Magicians. This is a really cool card, and it's also one of the reasons that we're playing 3 Effect Veiler, because Effect Veiler is a spellcaster. You can use Selene's effect to summon that spellcaster back from your graveyard to a zone that she points to. Keep that in mind, so never summon your Selene to any of your main monster zones, because then you won't be able to use her effect. And when you do use her effect, you're of course going to link into the newest Link 4 that is potentially the best Link 4, and some people even argue it's power crept every other Link 4 of the game, Access Code Talker. Access Code Talker cannot be responded to when you summon it. If your opponent does not negate the summon, you get to target any Link monster in your grave that you use for the Link summon, and it gains that much attack of the Link rating times 1,000. So when you use your Selene and your Effect Veiler, you get to make your Access Code Talker. Now, say your opponent has no way of negating the summon, but they have, for example, Bottomless Trap Hole. If you use Access Code Talker's effect, which cannot be responded to, it skips that summon window, so your opponent can't activate Bottomless Trap Hole because they can't respond to Access Code Talker's effect. Now, the reason that they can't chain it beforehand is since it's your turn, you have priority to declare trigger effects. So you summon Access Code Talker before your opponent can activate Bottomless Trap Hole. You have the priority to declare your trigger effect of Access Code Talker. And also keep in mind, it has a very powerful effect of banishing every attribute of Link monsters to destroy the same number of cards on your opponent's field, which your opponent also cannot respond to. So what that means is if you have, say, you have a light monster, a dark monster, a wind monster, and a water monster, you can banish these 4 attributes to destroy 4 cards on the field. Keep in mind, you don't have to banish them all at once, you banish them one at a time. So if your opponent has less than 4 cards, it's not like you just can't use Access Code Talker's effect. It just means that you only have to destroy 3 cards, and you get to save the 4th attribute for another time. Now, let's go right into the Synchro engine now, starting off with TG Hyper Librarian. This is pretty much the card that allows the whole draw 4 combo, because you use your Olion and you use a Mecha Phantom Beast token to make this card, and then your Olion summons a token. Now, once you have that token on the field, you're going to save that for later. You're going to use your Deskbot 001, and you're going to have a Link token left over, so you can make your Formula Synchron. Chainlink 1 will always be your Hyper Librarian since it's a mandatory effect, and then Chainlink 2 will be your Formula Synchron, allowing you to draw 2 cards. Now, from there, you're going to use one of those Mecha Phantom Beast tokens with your Formula Synchron for Excel Synchron. This is just it's like a synchro climbing card. The reason that you summon it is just to get an extra draw off your Hyper Librarian. So from there, we're going to synchro that right away for a Boral Savage Dragon. Chainlink 1, of course, is your Hyper Librarian. Chainlink 2 is your Boral Savage Dragon. And in most cases, you're going to equip your Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon, giving Boral Savage 3 negates and 4,050 attack. Now, in some scenarios, you're not able to go into that whole draw combo, and you have to do things a little bit different. In those cases, you actually tune your Link Ross token and your Deskbot 001 for a Formula Synchron, drawing a card right away, and then you tune the Formula Synchron with the last Link Ross token for Martial Metal Marcher. This is just a level 3 that is, when Synchro summoned, it will summon a tuner from your graveyard, which you can link with your Link Ross for your Barricade board. And then you can link this, which is a machine tuner, with your Barricade board for your Auroradon. Now, if you have to do this combo, then when you summon your Auroradon, you've already used your Formula Synchron, so you're not going to be able to do the Draw 4 combo. What you will do, however, is you'll use your Auroradon to summon the Olion, and then you can tune the Olion with 2 of your tokens for a Boral Savage Dragon, and then tune your Despot 001 that gets summoned from the Olion effect for Herald of the Arclight. It is a card that negates any card or effect by tributing itself, and while it's face up on the field, any monster that goes from deck or hand to the graveyard gets banished instead. So that wraps it up for the extra deck. Now let's move on to the final part. Triple Fantastical Dragon Phantasme. This rounds out the entire deck's hand trap lineup to 15 hand traps that you can have at any given time in your deck. You can side out anything that you feel just is not as good as your Phantasme. In some scenarios, say you're going second, you can side out some of your trap cards, you can side out the Cursed Eldland. Those are just some options that I like to go with, but I don't really like siding out any of my machine tuners. Anything that gets me into the Halka-Fibrax combo I feel has to stay in the main deck. So just keep in mind, Phantasme is still a very powerful card. Next up is 3 Cosmic Cyclone. This is another card that I talked about in the past. The reason that I'm choosing Cosmic Cyclone over Twin Twisters is specifically for Eldlich, but this card also works very well against things like Altergeist, where you banish their manifestation so they can't get it back off of the Silcotis later on. And also, it just gets rid of a lot of problem cards that just activate in the graveyard anyway, that Twin Twisters doesn't really deal with. But speaking of destroying spells and trap cards, we have Lightning Storm. This card is significantly better than Twin Twisters in the event that destroys every spell and trap on the field. But the downside is you can't have face-up cards on the field. Now, Eldlich kind of dodges that situation because you actually can get yourself in a lot of scenarios where you just have a lot of set cards. You don't really need to have too many face-up cards in this deck, so there's situations you can set yourself up to set your Lightning Storm up. Then you can board wipe your opponent, and then you can do all your face-down effects to continue the game. Next up is Dark Ruler No More. The reason that we're playing this card is pretty much just for Adamancipator, but also keep in mind it's pretty useful against Dragon Link among some other decks, as well as pretty much anything that uses the whole Jet Synchron and Halka-Fibrax into 2 negates or into a negate plus drawing 4. So this card is very powerful right now. I definitely recommend you guys should be playing it. And to round out the side deck is the most powerful going second card and the best side deck card in the history of the game since this card came out, Evenly Matched. This card has been a side deck staple since its debut. It pretty much just rounds your opponent's field down to 1 card on the field, and then you're pretty much free to go off. So in situations where your opponent does that whole draw 4 combo and get to Boral Savage, say for some reason you side Evenly Matched in, you can evenly match your opponent all the way down to 1 card, assuming you open 2, or you assume you open a way to bait the Boral Savage Dragon. But however, this is a good card against Eldlich in general, because if they don't have that combo set up, if they brick or if you're able to stop them, and they just set a bunch of back row, this is very powerful in removing the back row. So keep that in mind as well. So guys, that about wraps up the Eldlich deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed this video discussing my version of the deck and how I view it, and I hope I explained everything thoroughly for you guys. Let me know in the comments below, and also if you enjoyed the video, of course, make sure to like and subscribe. I'm really close to hitting 125 subscribers, and that is my halfway point to my third milestone. My third milestone, of course, being 250 subscribers. So, guys, help me get up to 125 subscribers just to get me halfway there. So anyway, this is Toasty TCG signing out.